Welcome back everybody, Mr. P here with my review of the Final Fantasy IV Pixel Remaster. This begins the first review of what is the original trilogy of Super Nintendo or Super Famicom entries of the series that came out in the early 90s, and for those of you familiar with the franchise, there were quite a few changes introduced that became mainstays through many other games. First though, do be sure to do the like, share, subscribe thing, though not necessarily in that order. If you want to mix it up, feel free. I won't stop you. All that being said, how does this one hold up? Well, to be quite honest, there isn't much to say about the remaster of Final Fantasy IV. It's been a long time since I played the original American release when it hit the States, mislabeled as Final Fantasy II. For those unfamiliar, because the original second and third games on the Famicom never came out in the United States, when Final Fantasy IV was localized, they numbered it as 2 over here because they figured people would be confused. This also meant that when number 5 didn't come out here, but 6 did, then 6 was renumbered as Final Fantasy III for the American release. Of course, all that went out the window when Final Fantasy VII came out, and people were confused as to why it jumped from 3 to 7, and then people eventually learned the truth. Now, all that information isn't really necessary to know for this review, but if I remember correctly, the difficulty for what was called Final Fantasy II on the Super Nintendo was an easier version of Final Fantasy IV on the Super Famicom in Japan. I don't recall exactly what was changed, but I think it had something to do with encounter rates, XP, damage values, etc. being adjusted to make the playthrough easier for Western audiences. It wasn't quite game journalist mode easy, since the tutorial on Cuphead hadn't broken their minds yet. Still, for those who played both versions, there was an apparent difficulty decrease in the Western version. Now, Final Fantasy IV has been ported numerous times to various systems, and from what I've been able to find, there seems to be some agreement that the 3DS remake probably has the most challenge. I never did finish that version, but I made it through to the final dungeon, and yes, there is certainly a challenge in the final area, no doubt. More on that later, since this version also has a major difficulty spike there as well. As far as the remaster goes, all the boosts and quality of life options are there that have been present in the first 3, and the soundtrack can be switched as usual between the arranged and original. Now, I own all the soundtracks to every major Final Fantasy title except for the first 3 games and then 11 and 15. I love the music in the series. In fact, I think the Red Wings theme opening here and reprise in the final dungeon is probably one of the greatest themes in the series. I've played through Final Fantasy IV a lot over the years, and I'm very familiar with the soundtrack's original sound version. That said, there are only maybe 1 or 2 that I prefer in the original version to the arranged version, but not by much. The arranged version, Red Wings for example, does an excellent job of capturing the feeling and emotion of what Uematsu was hoping to achieve with the limited hardware he had at his disposal at the time. Honestly, you really can't go wrong with the arranged version here. Now, one of the big shifts in this game is the heavy emphasis on story. While the first 3 had some story guiding it, number 2 being the most involved, Final Fantasy IV put story and characters front and center. As in number 2, there's a rotating party member that is consistently replaced throughout the story for one reason or another until about 2/3 of the way through the game. Also, as I mentioned in the review of Final Fantasy III, there is the trope of killing off characters only to find out they weren't really killed. Now, I can understand that there are those who are miffed by this sort of thing, but for those of us who have played most of the main numbered series, this is just sort of what we expect. Final Fantasy isn't traditionally a grimdark fantasy series. This isn't Berserk, people. Nobody's getting assaulted by a demon horse on the highway at night. Or demon chocobo, I guess. Just saying. If I remember, only 1 character actually gets permadeath, but he was an old man anyway, so he doesn't get the same plot armor as everyone else. Still, the idea of killing a character only to have them not really be dead is sort of standard for Final Fantasy. This is why I was surprised, as many people had a problem with this sort of trope being present at the end of Endwalker in Final Fantasy XIV. Even then, most of the characters always survive death if they're a member of the core cast. Well, except Papalymo. Sorry, buddy. You have to stay dead. Minbrita and Ysayle have stayed dead, and supposedly Xenos is dead for good now. But for any longtime veterans of the series, we all know that death is usually just a minor inconvenience rather than anything permanent for the main cast. We'll see how true this stays in Final Fantasy 16, which I'll have a review of the demo up hopefully before the full game releases this upcoming Thursday. Oh, and speaking of tropes, people being empowered by the power of friendship was present in the end of Final Fantasy 3, and comes back again here during the final boss. So, for people to not realize that Final Fantasy has had some very anime-esque tropes for a very long time, hasn't played very many, or hasn't been paying attention. I say all that to say this. Story takes front and center in Final Fantasy IV, and that emphasis is core to the series from here on. As for gameplay, I think the difficulty here is based on the original Super Famicom release. As I said earlier, there have been numerous ports of FF4, so it's kind of hard to keep track. The game itself isn't altogether that difficult, aside from having to level new characters that join your party, since they're almost always severely underleveled. Fortunately, the 4x XP boost makes grinding in this game a lot faster, so you don't have to spend as much time. Really, that's the benefit to boosts in all these. You can grind it out the old-fashioned way, or make your life easier and just get it over with sooner. Even then, the challenge in the game doesn't go away quite so easily. There are sections where even if you aren't leveling up quickly anymore, you can still take pretty high damage. And then you have the final zone, the moon, where enemies will stomp you into the dirt. When I was looking up people's thoughts on difficulty, I was seeing people claim to have beaten the original and even the Pixel Remaster at around level 50. I call BS on that. On the moon, there are numerous legendary weapons you can unlock by fighting their requisite bosses. Dark Bahamut is one of them, and in his opening attack, one-shot Rydia, who at the time had the best gear she could have on and was at level 70. He also did massive damage to everyone else as well. The final boss can also do damage up to several thousand points of damage in a single attack to all party members, and he doesn't exactly attack slowly. I don't have my original footage of the first time I fought Zeromas here, but Rosa was just spamming Curaja the whole time. Other characters were attacking when not using Phoenix Downs, and it dragged on longer than any other fight I had up to that point. The only thing I hadn't done yet was level to 99 and get Adamant Armors for everyone. At level 70 or so, and with the best available weapons and armor from chests, the last dungeon can still destroy you if you aren't prepared. Many of the enemies in the last depths of the final dungeon come with their own boss music, for crying out loud. So I don't know what version people played where they said they waltzed through it without any issues at 50, but I call shenanigans.
Shenanigans! Shenanigans! Shenanigans!
Speaking of leveling and getting the best armor, you'll be happy to know that this game is much simpler. First though, let's talk combat. FF4 introduced the active time battle system. If you set it to wait, once your character started to make inputs into the game, enemies would wait to attack. If you set the game to active, they would continue to attack even if you hadn't finished putting in your action choice. This added a level of urgency and quick thinking to battles which didn't exist in the first three, which were much more true turn-based games. With the game set to active, it became less truly turn-based and sort of a hybrid between that and real-time. Well, maybe not real-time. I would describe it more like what you see in Final Fantasy XIV, where you can only attack every so many seconds, not counting off global skills, of course, and enemies will still attack even while you're doing stuff. Final Fantasy XII had the Gambit system, which sort of worked this way too, where you could only attack when the bar was charged. Still, the ATB system is what set the groundwork for a lot of these later changes in the series. Wait gave you more time to think, but active would make it less turn-based than the original three were. Also, this game reverts more to how Final Fantasy I functioned as far as jobs go. Every character has a set class with unique abilities, and there is no changing jobs, aside from Cecil, of course, for plot reasons. This is also where we see these jobs in probably their most classic form. Dark Knight, Paladin, Dragoon, and Summoner are much more well-defined here than in previous games, although this is the first time Paladin is used to describe a knight that uses white magic. Monk and Ninja return as well, though there isn't much change from FF3 as far as how they function with the kick and throw commands respectively. Getting overpowered in this game is just a matter of leveling. Nothing fancy. Now, when you get to the moon, you have the option of buying items called Sirens, which will throw you into battle against a predetermined set of enemies depending on where you use it. This is helpful for three things. First, In the final dungeon, you can use these to summon red dragons. With XP turned up, you can spam these fights and level up to 99 in no lengthy period of time. Assuming your gear is up to par, you shouldn't have too much trouble, and the stronger you get, the faster these fights go. Secondly, you'll be using these to farm flan-princesses. There is a treasure room on the moon that will throw you into a fight with 6 of these things, and they have the potential to drop what are called pink tails. There is a location you trade these in for that grants you Adamant Armor, the strongest armor in the game with over 100 defense, various stat boosts, and immunities to many status effects. The drop rate isn't the greatest, but if you've leveled to 99, you should be able to take out these things in maybe a minute or so at a time. I would get a drop, upgrade someone's equipment, and then return for more. These drops are considered key items, so I don't think they stack. I've never tried, and I'd rather not risk trying to turn in one, only for the game to dump all 6 at once and only get 1 armor for it. Anyway, drop rate used to be abysmal for these, but the Pixel Remaster had a patch which upped the drop rate. Lastly, you'll use sirens to summon mobs you'll have to grind for secret summons. Goblin, Bomb, Cockatrice, and Mind Flayer are all dropped from certain enemies at extremely low rates that have been boosted in this version. Setting battle speed to high and auto makes this a lot faster. The requisite bomb enemies have to be encountered in the lunar passages since sirens don't really summon them. East or west passage is fine, though some will claim one side is better. Goblins are found on the overworld near Baron using a siren. Using a siren outside of Mist City will summon cockatrices, and the Mind Flayer can be encountered in the entrance to the Magnetic Cavern using the same item. Wait until the end of the game to do this to make it a lot faster. Even with the boosted drop rate, it can take time. I somehow lucked out and got the goblin drop from a goblin on the moon without realizing it, and after buying 99 sirens again to go summon farming, it only took me about an hour or so to get the other 3. So, drop rate isn't great, but far less annoying than the Onion Knight gear in the previous game. Other than that, this game is pretty straightforward. Also, if you want to go for 100% completion in one go, be sure to use a guide that keeps you posted of where points of no return are, and be sure to keep track of everything on your map. Multiple saves are your friend around these times. I had a quick save I made in the Tower of Babel the second time you enter it, completed the rest of the game, only to find out I missed a chest somehow in that same tower. Fortunately, that save was there. Then I went through and accidentally skipped the one missable summon and had to reload the tower again. I think I ended up redoing that section between Babel and the Moon like 3 times because I kept forgetting to redo certain things. However, I finally managed to get everything completed, so I don't have to worry about that ever again. I'll link to the guides I used in the description as usual. Anyway, if you've been looking to play through one of the more seminal games in the series again and relive the journey with Cecil and his companions, this is a great way to do it. I've started working on Final Fantasy V, but I've also been playing through Diablo 4 and just finished the main campaign, so I'll be posting my thoughts on that portion of the game soon. Plus, I've got the video on the FF16 demo to do, and then that comes out soon, so I'll definitely be playing that. 5 will be done eventually. I just don't know when. It'll get posted when it gets posted. Until then, let me know your thoughts on FF4, and if you had a favorite version of it, and if you had any particular memories of the game. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, in order this time, and I'll talk to you again soon. Take care.